But we usually I start with mindfulness breathing, so get relaxed. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday, June 26th City Council meeting. I open this meeting up at 7 o'clock, and I invite you to participate in a mindfulness moment to welcome ourselves to the City Council meeting. If you're new here and you haven't been through this before, you can just sit quietly during the short exercise. Look at your neighbor, or you can stare down or have a soft gaze downward. So bring attention to your breath. Notice how you're breathing right now. Notice how you're sitting upright or relaxed in the chair. Legs are crossed or just planted firmly on the floor. Find a way to be more relaxed. We're going to start taking some deeper, slower breaths. I recommend counting inhale on a 4 and exhale on a 5. So we're going to take a deep breath. 4. Exhale. Inhale at your own pace. We always have a lot going through our brains. You know, my Mondays are really busy at work. And to shift your thinking and your mind from what you were doing earlier to come into this supportive community environment. Our shared meeting space, our city council chambers, where council does business. And you are here participating in your local government, and we're all focused on making our community better. Just remember that everybody here on council is a resident first for your neighbors. And let's be curious and thoughtful. Ask you to one last breath, big breath. Blow it out. Take your shoulders. Get out the stress. With that, I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
James.
Here.
Leaks May.
Here.
Mikulski.
Here.
Polika. Piana.
Here. Can we have an excused absence for Polika?
Mayor, I move that we excuse Councilman Polika from tonight's meeting.
Support. Moved and seconded.
Leaks May.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right, we need approval of the agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as published.
Support. Moved by James and supported by Mikulski.
James.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right, and we're on to presentations, and we have 2 presentations tonight. And the first one is 4A. It's the Ferndale Board of Zoning Appeals of the 2023 or 2022 annual report presentation. We ask all of our boards and we ask all of our boards and commissions to do an annual report, and they're slowly coming in, and glad that you're here.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Kyle. I work in the CED department as a senior planner. I am the staff liaison to the Board of Zoning Appeals. As required, this is our annual report for the year 2022. The BZA, I'd like to recognize the membership. We do have 7 full members and 2 alternates. We do have Ian Williamson, he's our chair, who is in attendance tonight. Judy Palmer, our vice chair. Judy has served on the board for, I think, up to 20 years, perhaps. She's been here quite a long time. I'd like to recognize our current city council liaison, Laura Mikulski. And one of our 2 alternates is from the Planning Commission, that is Krista Azar. So she's a planning commissioner. She lends her time to the BZA. Other members are Leah Blazinski, Austin Colson, Nicholas Monk, and Aaliyah Webb. We currently have 1 vacant alternate. We're going through that process. At this time, I'd like to also recognize our former members, including Councilmember Raylon Leaks-May, Dustin Hagfors, the prior Planning Commission liaison, and Mike Steedman, who had nearly 8 years of service before he left the board. So what is the Board of Zoning Appeals? Broken down, it is these 3 items here. They interpret the zoning ordinance and the zoning map so they can make official decisions related to those items. They hear and decide appeals of determinations made by CED staff or the Planning Commission. And what they're probably best known for is granting variances. So variances are roughly grouped into 2 different categories: dimensional variances and use variances. Use variances are where a property is when an applicant is seeking a use on a land use which is not otherwise permitted by the ordinance. We don't get too many of these quite often. In general, we deal with a lot more dimensional variances. So a dimensional variance would be a relaxation or modification of the requirements of the zoning ordinance as authorized by the BZA. So I think a classic example is someone wants to build a garage in a specific location in their yard, but maybe there's a DTE easement or something, and it forces them to construct it into a setback or something that we have. So generally they're kind of small, but they can be large. So the BZA hears these with the following standards for review. I can kind of sum through this. So we don't want to impair the light and air to adjacent properties. We're looking to mitigate dangers of fire or harming the environment. It's compatible with adjacent uses and character. It's not going to unreasonably increase congestion or other traffic issues. It's not going to create a nuisance in general. The plight of the applicant results from special or unique circumstances peculiar to the property and not from general conditions, and the alleged hardship has been created by the applicant. So these are things that they look for when they are evaluating variances. In terms of 2022, we only had 1 meeting, so the BZA does meet as an on-needed basis. So we have applicants who come in. Sometimes they talk about their concern or their potential variances, and often planning and building staff can work with them, and maybe they don't need to go the route where they end up at the BZA. So we only had 1 meeting. It was on May 10th. This is for 965 Wanda, which is probably one of the largest properties in the city. This is the home of brass aluminum forging. So on this parcel, you can see the cross-hatched area down here, which is the existing building. They want to do a very large expansion, which is this gray-colored area. So they sought 4-dimensional variances, the most relevant of which is the build-to line. So if we followed the zoning ordinance by the letter, this entire building would be shifted to within 10 feet of Wanda. So this really significantly would have impaired the traffic circulation of the site, both for their personal trucks, but also for emergency services. It also would have brought a lot of heavy machinery to within 40-ish feet of residences across from Wanda. This is a very loud industrial space. So some of these were the major issues considered by the BZA. They did have some other dimensional variances sort of that were piggybacking off of that. The BZA granted 3 of the 4 variances. They denied the parking setback. But overall, this was a great learning experience for staff. Not only was it my first BZA here, and probably one of the biggest BZA meetings we've had, but it really educated us about our zoning ordinance and maybe some of the issues. And it's part of why we're going through the rewrite process today, so we can avoid issues like this in the future. In terms of next year, looking ahead, BZA will be involved with the zoning ordinance rewrite. They told us they really wanted to be involved just because they are exposed to so many issues when they happen. They have a unique insight. I think Planning Commission kind of deals with the successes, and the BZA sometimes deals with some of the hardships and issues with the zoning ordinance, so they definitely want to be a part of it. And then in general, just general teachings, just to keep everybody sharp and ready for future meetings and to be in compliance with redevelopment ready community, the Oakland County program. At this time, I'd like to invite our chair up just for a few words, if that's okay with you all. This is Ian Williamson.
Ian, it's good to see you. Thank you for your years of service.
I can say the same for all of you up here. I appreciate all of your service to the city, Mayor Piana, council members, city staff. It's been great having Kyle to work with us on the BZA, and it's been a few years since we've been here to give an annual report to City Council. We haven't been real active over the last probably 18 to 24 months. We had a period of time leading up to the pandemic where we were actually meeting 6 or 7 times a year, which for BZA is a lot. Our zoning board typically only meets about 3 or 4 times a year typically. But we had a slew of variance requests, and then everything fell off very dramatically with the pandemic. But we have seen some important issues that have been brought before us. This one that Kyle was just talking about with this industrial district variance, it really highlighted some of the issues that we have with the current version of our zoning ordinance. This is a good time to be doing a rewrite of the zoning ordinance. We're looking forward to being involved with it more on the BZA side. Typically, we do have the Planning Commission review all proposed changes to the zoning ordinance, but the zoning board has not really been as involved in this process. We think that needs to change. The Planning Commission comes in with a goal-oriented approach, and we are lucky to have an extremely skilled and talented group on our Planning Commission. We have a lot of dedicated professionals that have been on that body for decades, and they do a great job. But on the zoning board side, we look at things a little differently because we're actually applying the language. So the way we consider the proposed language for new proposed amendments, I think should be taken into consideration a little more so before we're adopting ordinance changes. So we're looking forward to working with the Planning Commission and with the committee that's been put together to address this. Over the last few years, most of what we've seen in front of zoning board has been variance requests. We typically see a lot of dimensional variance requests. As you all may know, some years ago, I think 4 or 5 years ago now, use variances were passed back over to the zoning board. They had been in the province of city council for some years before that. I think we've seen 1 use variance request in that time. So we're not seeing a lot of those. We're mainly just seeing dimensional variances. And that about wraps it up. Kyle, thanks again for your presentation. If any of you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, I'm going to say, again, thank you for your service and good night.
Thank you for the overview. I know usually variances kind of go up when a zoning rewrite is needed. So I see a correlation there when something needs to be updated to reflect that. And I hope that the ZBA is involved through the zoning rewrite process. So, and I would love the ZBA's advice and what to do going forward.
Thank you, council members and mayor.
Thank you. Thanks, Kyle. All right, we're moving on to the second presentation, which is 4B's presentation of the June 2023 Ferndale Beautification Awards. Good to see you again, Ed.
Yes. Good evening, Council and Mayor Piana. We have some really nice yards that that we'd like to give some awards to, yards and property. The first person we'd like to call up is Angela and Brahma, Ryan, and, oh, I'm sorry. We're going to call up Elizabeth.
Congratulations, Elizabeth. It looks great.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your property, what inspired you, and
Thank you. I think I got my love of gardening and flowers from my gran, who was my favorite person growing up. So that's my inspiration. And this is my first house. So in the 3 years I've been there, I've been really enjoying kind of redoing the gardens, and brings me a lot of joy to be outside. And I have neighbors that love to garden, so I really think it's a great part of the community here. Grateful to be in a city where they recognize that, and this is just a lovely end to a great Pride Month in Ferndale for me. So.
thank you for sharing your yard with us.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Would you like a picture?
We can do one of everybody at the end.
Okay, all right. All right, and then for the Southwest, we reviewed and rewarded Michael Fraley, but he isn't here tonight. He has COVID, unfortunately, so.
Beautiful natural landscape garden, though.
Yeah, and then the next person we'd like to recognize is Angela, or next people we'd like to recognize are Angela and Brahma Ryan. Like to share a little bit about your garden?
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and everyone assembled. Appreciate this. This is an honor. My wife, Angela, and I run construction projects, and my wife has the luxury of working at home as a graphic designer, so I do much more public speaking. She's asked me to speak for us, but we've lived in Ferndale for 22 years and in the same house. Raised both our children here. They went to Ferndale schools. I really love the community. My wife and I have made it our home, and we'll continue to own the home on Horton Street. My wife is, like I said, went to CCS. She's a designer. She has very good taste and very, very big ideas, and we've been trying to execute them all. I'm an iron worker by trade, but I run projects, and unfortunately, that takes me on the road quite a bit. So most of the work you see when you drive by the house was all done at her hands. I'm good at welding, and I did all that, those kind of jobs. I dug the footings, but she did everything you see as Angela's touch to it. So, again, I appreciate the council and the mayor and the Beautification Commission for this. This is very great. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Congratulations.
All right, and then the final area was the Northwest, and Kimberly Lennox and Matthew, and I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce this last name because I know I would screw it up. So why don't you come up here and tell everybody what your last name is, because I don't want to screw it up.
You want to tell everybody what your last name is?
Voyevich.
I'm glad I didn't screw it up.
We just want to say thank you so much. This is such a cool honor, and it really makes us feel more closely connected to this community that we love so much. And we have a lot in common with some of the other winners. This is also our first house, and I also work from home as a graphic designer. So it's kind of a cohesive bunch here. But I guess where, I got inspiration for sort of the vision here is, growing up, my mom always filled the front yard with beautiful, bright, vibrant petunias, and she had these big hanging bags on our front porch too, and I just loved how showy it was, and you could always see it from the street, and I just wanted to bring that. But I owe all of the care to this guy right here. He actually makes sure that nothing dies, so. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Let's
get
get
a
a
photo
picture
together?
of it. Of all you.
right, folks, we're moving on the agenda. We are now on to item 5, which is call to audience, and we set aside 30 minutes for visitors and residents to come up and say what's ever on their mind. You have 3 minutes to share your thoughts, and there's a nice mindfulness clock on the wall to help remind you of where you are and timing. Is there anybody here who would like to make public comment tonight on anything on your mind? Going once?
I was hoping not to go first, but
You might be the only one.
first and only then. Hi, good evening, Council Mayor. My name is Blake Mikas, and I'm here. I have a concern with a couple rental properties that I manage, and coincidentally have the same issue with properties next door, which are large, dangerous dead trees. And so one of them is on Webster, and the other is on Harris Street. And both properties next door are rental properties as well, and so are subject to rental inspections every 2 years. And these trees have actually been dead in one case on Webster for 2 years, and on Harris it's been an issue going back 4 years. And I've tried to contact the owner and the property manager of both those properties to address this, given how close in proximity they are to the buildings, and how obviously these large standing trees are not safe for anybody that's going to live there, or public, or kids, or anybody. And also obviously are not, if they were to fall, they could cause serious property damage as well. Most recently, I tried talking to some people at the building department. I talked to Victor back when he was still an inspector here. That was about 2 years ago. And when we had our inspection for the property, I mentioned, the properties next door, and then it was sort of mentioned that it was going to be brought up during their next rental inspection. And that cycle has kind of come and gone. One of them got inspected last August, and the other one last November, and nothing has happened with that. I followed up with the assistant building official, Emily Loomis. I've called and emailed a good 15 times, because I know how the process works, and at this point, once you're months and months and months past with violations, which these dead trees were marked as violations, there's supposed to be some teeth to the enforcement there. And so I'm here because I am not sure what else to do, and I could use some help. I did bring pictures of both trees at both properties as well, and that's what I've got.
Thank you. I'm going to have you, Roger is our CED director in the back. I encourage you to talk to him. He can help navigate you going through the process and get whatever's stuck unstuck with these trees.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
And I'm sorry for your frustrations.
Well, it's all a process, right?
So,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Anybody else who would like to make comment tonight? All right. With that, I'm going to close call to audience, and we're going to move on to item number 6, which is our public hearing. We only have one tonight, which is 6A, is consideration of a special land use application for 1651 Faro. And welcome back, Kyle.
Good evening again. Okay, thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. So this is a special land use public hearing for 1651 Faro. To get acclimated with the site, this is located on Faro, just north of Saratoga. So here is 9 Mile. This is best known as Garden Fresh right here on 9 Mile. So this is the parking lot that sits behind it. So this is a parcel that's been kind of a vacant parking lot in poor condition for quite a long time, as far as I can find running back. This is zoned M1, General Industrial. So the applicant is proposing a self-storage building. So they have gone to Planning Commission for this. It is maximizing the height of 50 feet that's permitted in the industrial zoning district. They are providing 400 interior units. So everything is inside, climate controlled. This is part of the additional requirements found in the zoning ordinance. I believe that's one of the requirements, that everything has to be interior. They're providing all the other requirements, such as landscaping, green space, bicycle parking. Let's see here. These are two, I guess, renderings of the site. These are both looking west, so if you're standing on Faro, so you're seeing some of the southern face. And then if you are standing a little bit further up, closer to 9 Mile, this is looking at the northern face of the site. So like I said, self-storage is a special land use, so we would have a public hearing and consideration of that. The Planning Commission, I don't know if Councilman Pollica left a message or anything, if you want my interpretation of Planning Commission's events. But from what I recall, they seem supportive of the use. The site plan was passed unanimously, as was the special land use. The only, I guess, sticking point was a discussion about the color. So before, at the Planning Commission, a lot of this kind of neutral gray that you see here was a very, very striking red accent. And it was a striking looking building, but it was a lot of red, and it was very bold. So there was a lot of discussion about that. I think the applicant did, review that and take that feedback to heart. So they have returned with a more neutral looking building. I don't know if the applicants and or the architect would like to come up and say a few words about this project.
Hi, Brian Howard with HF Architecture, and Kyle is correct. When we went to planning, everything you see that is kind of that dark gray, or the two boxes, for instance, was a red. And we thought it fit in better only because it wasn't a branding thing. It was really to try, and because we're not on 9 Mile, is really to try and bring some focus to the building, being that people are going by. There was a lot of discussion on that. So we did decide that, it was probably better off that we kind of make it a little bit more neutral. And we do have a piece of the panel here with us tonight for you to look at. It is a smooth face metal panel. It's a split face masonry block. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I will, this is a public hearing, and we have 4 steps to our public hearing. I usually have the applicant and staff present, and then I open it up for the public comment, and then I move on to the 3rd step, which is council questions.
Okay.
So we may bring you back up after I open up for public comment.
Okay. Sounds
Thank you for your patience. All right, so now I'm going to open up this item for public comment at 7:29. Is there anybody here who would like to say something? Come on up.
Hello, good evening. First I want to say I'm new to Ferndale, so my family and I we love the city. And I'm here today because we live actually adjacent, our property is adjacent to this. Right on our backyard ends right at the parking lot. And so the concern is the height of the building in relation to our residential home, sound and light pollution, and just the overall size of it in consideration to the other buildings that are around that aren't necessarily 4 stories. That's really just light pollution, basically if I'm not opposed to it, it's just to have an adequate separation of, I just want to make sure that it's not spilling into my yard as far as light, sound. So if there's adequate barrier between commercial and residential, that's okay. But I also didn't realize that it was this large. It's very tall, but that's why I'm here today, just to kind of voice my opinion as far as, I'm not opposed to the development. That is an empty lot. It's been unsightly the entire time we've been living there. We're just asking consideration for the residents that are on that block, and to either, just try to accommodate us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there anybody else who would like to make public comment? If not, I'm going to close it at 7:31 and then open it up to council for questions for the applicant or staff.
Through the chair, I will take the opportunity to essentially parrot the audience members' questions. Can you talk about, I guess, are there windows facing the residential properties on the upper floors? What kind of, how close to that property line is the building, and what kind of mitigation measures have been taken to help create a buffer to the adjacent residential area?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to go through that. This is the west elevation. So to be clear, I believe the applicant would be the house here that's closest to it, correct? Okay. So in an interesting little, I guess, note or quirk of our zoning ordinance, these houses here along Troy are all zoned industrial. So I'm not exactly sure of the history of that or how that came to be, but they are all zoned M1, general industrial. So they're all legal, non-conforming, essentially. So this house, if I can zoom in here, it's a little pixelated, but you can see there's a bit of a separation between the house and the property line. So the building is proposed to be, it's not on the rear property line. Let me find it.
Is there an egress or ingress facing his property line?
No, nothing on the west side. So, yeah, so it's about 9.5 feet. There's a little bit of a stairwell here that kind of sticks out. So that's almost 3 feet from the property line. And then as for the western facade, this would be facing the house. So there's no windows. There's an emergency stairwell egress. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. In terms of sound and lights, sound is something that we cover day to day in terms of, police enforcement. I'm not anticipating any major disruptions to come from this building. I think that's kind of why self-storage buildings are better suited in industrial areas. It's really not going to be making much noise. In terms of lighting, I don't believe there's much in the way of lighting on the west side of the building. We do require that lighting be mitigated at the property line. Yeah, so it goes down to 0.7, which is within the allowable tolerances. But I would say getting to the southern end of the site, it is 0 at the property line. So I think there's a little bit of light here for that emergency stairwell egress, but otherwise it's 0 at the property line.
To follow up a little bit, can you talk about the 9 feet between the property line and where the building will be? Are there any walls, barriers, trees, anything like that? And can you also talk a bit about the construction timeline? That's never fun. I just had an apartment building constructed across the street from my house in 2020. Now that it's done, I have fantastic new neighbors. The construction part was not so fun. Can you talk about the predicted timeline and talk about, I know we have a policy around when certain construction can take place and so forth.
So in terms of what's between the building and the residence property, we do have a few trees. We do have some green space. I'd like to note right now there's a lot of trees in the area. So whatever is on this property, the applicant's property will likely be removed. But to anticipate, there's probably going to be some trees remaining on the residence property that aren't our trees to remove, frankly. So we do have that. And then in terms of the construction timing, I'll let the applicant speak more detailed about that. But we do have a good neighbor policy. It's more so in the building department's hands, so I don't know it off the top of my head. But what I can tell you is it does set hours that the construction can commence. Understandably, there are some, noise during construction, so that's part of it. So really for us, it's about mitigating those off hours that could be disturbing to residents. But I will let you speak about the
Sure.
general timeline.
And also just a quick comment. As Kyle stated, we did put landscaping, some trees along there, but we also introduced an 8-foot masonry wall there too. So, an 8-foot wall is pretty tall. And so that's why you're not seeing any light pollution come from our small little area, which is what we're calling an outdoor patio area. We also created our green space along that buffer for that reason, to provide for a softening of that facade. That facade's also not a flat facade either. As you notice, the stairwell pokes out at you. So we didn't want this to look like, a long blank wall, although it is blank with no windows, but it does have some movement to it. With regards to the construction schedule, my client has told me that he'll be starting in the fall, and we figured anywhere between 6 to 7 months construction time for this type of building. So we got to get, obviously, we got to get it enclosed, we got to get all the block work done prior to the winter, and then work on the interior of the building during the winter months. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Can you just review the back of the building's lighting? I know.
They're the only lighting, and how do you do this?
There's nothing on top of the
photo.
building?
No, there's nothing on the facades at all. The only lighting that you see is underneath the building right there between the stairwell and the bike storage, and it's a light like this. Just to bring and we have to do that per code because that's an egress entrance or exit out of the building. So we have to provide lighting there for people to get out of the building safely. But it's like this, it's underneath our building. And that's why you're not seeing a 1-foot candle along that property line, is because the building's doing a lot of that buffering for us.
Will you have security cameras around there? Will there be anything around the building where
I'm assuming.
it could be impeding
Yeah, I'm
onto
assuming we will, sure.
but would be impeding onto the neighbor's property? They wouldn't want to have
Unless-
security cameras looking down into their backyard?
No, I would think that just because, the back wall of the building in that buffer zone, I'm assuming we'll have a security cam at each corner just to be able to pick up people who shouldn't be there.
I made through the chair. So it's just one way in and one way out? That's where the lighting will be? Is that what I'm hearing, or are there other entrances that there will be?
No, this lighting is occurring to get people out of the building, out of that stair tower. The other lighting is underneath that parking area that you see. So all the blue rectangles you see are all light fixtures. But they're under the building. So what they're doing is they're shedding light down onto the parking lot or the parking area. That's why when you look at that photometric plan, nothing along the property line, it all meets the ordinance. Because we're not mounting a light to a wall, we're letting it kind of glow, or let the light come down and let it shed light on the parking area in particular, and the entrance and the egress.
Yeah, and through the chair, if I may. So this is Faro, and again, this is looking southwest. So this is the east of the building. So this is the front, so this would be the main entrance. It is fully off of Faro. We do have some bicycle parking out front. If you are driving to the site, you would pull into it, and you would park in one of these spaces here. So you're essentially parking underneath an overhang. And so that's where I think a lot of the lighting is going to be, is underneath that overhang for, security for that. So you can sort of see the wall back here in the tree, and this little protrusion is the bicycle storage room. So there is a main entrance that's up at the front of the site.
Which does not abut the residential.
Correct. And self-storage really has an incredibly low parking requirement, but I think that's due to, people get a unit, they move in, and maybe they don't come back for years, So it's not a high generating traffic site.
Through the chair, just a quick question. There are no roll doors or anything like that on the building, right?
They're not, no.
Perfect. Great.
No, those doors you see in that elevation, that rendering right there, are they're sliding doors like at your grocery store. And that's the only way people get their stuff in and out.
All right, there's no more questions. We need a motion to proceed. We've already done public comment. Sorry, I usually don't open it up again.
Your Honor, if there's a motion made, he could speak to the motion.
Okay. We've been given a process. Give us a minute. Thank you, Dan.
All right, I move to, after a properly noticed public hearing and unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission, that the city approve the special land use application of a self-storage facility for 1651 Farrow Street, being parcel number 24, 25, 35, 104, 018, based on plans dated May 10, 2023, and adopt the findings of the Planning Commission that the request meets and satisfies the review standards set forth in 24-273 of the zoning ordinance.
Support.
Moved by James and supported by Leaks May. All right, we have a motion on the floor. I invite you to come up and ask your question.
And I don't oppose it, but what you can see by the rendering here is, my concern is that I can see that at the ceiling plan, if the light is shining down, the wall is obviously lower than where the light would be, is my understanding. And I just want to make sure that any kind of lighting, like the wall, is tall enough to contain the light within the ceiling or the soffit there. So that was my only concern, is by the rendering here, it's shy of the soffit where the lighting will be. If we could just up that wall to make sure that all of that light pollution or any flooding of the light is contained, I'm all good. Thank you.
Thank you. I am not a lighting person, so I'm not sure how to ask the right question to see how to solve that problem.
Through the chair, I'm hesitant to raise the wall height. I don't know if we can, frankly, without maybe going back to Planning Commission. But I do know that we can, administratively ensure that the lighting is not going to stray into the property line. I think that's a much easier thing for us to go through.
Is that wall glass or is it see-through in some way?
This back here? No, it's.
Wait a minute. Let's just be clear about what wall we're talking about. I'm talking about the big gray panels going left to right. Is that the wall that you're speaking of?
Yeah, here in the back, I think
Picture
the
we're
western
talking
property
about, yeah.
line.
Oh, that wall.
I think that's what
I'm
you're
thinking
speaking
the
to,
wall
right?
of the building, not the,
I think there's a different. Kyle, do you have the other property line picture?
I think you're pointing to something that I can't see because your video is there. There we go. Because the Planning Commission meeting note says that the wall was removed. The chain link was moved,
Yeah,
but,
so at planning commission, the chain link fence was removed, and you can see it's the dashed line, it doesn't even sit on the property line. So, and as part of your zoning ordinance, we're required to put a solid masonry wall there. That wall, and here's where maybe a little bit of confusion comes up. I'm more than happy to change and not put 2 lights there like this, but put half of this light. That will give me enough light, and that will reduce, half the amount of light that's going to come out of there. Even though, in my opinion, it's still not going to go onto his property. And I know lighting and I know photometrics, but we're willing to reduce that to just get enough. And building department has to agree with us that that's enough light to get people safely out of this building if needed.
yeah, I just want to clarify, the conditions in the planning commission meeting notes says the masonry wall on the west property line will be removed from the final site plan. Which is why I'm confused.
Okay, I think I'm recalling now that the planning commission did move forward with that. So they did that because I know some applicants have voiced concerns about a kind of ugly wall abutting their property. And due to the green space buffer, I think they did elect to remove that. We can review that and come back to that because we've frankly had applicants oppose it before in the past, or nearby residents oppose it.
I prefer the green space, but it's up, I think this is a discussion with the property owner who is, going to be impacted by it.
Sure.
So if there's some leeway there to.
Through the chair, is there a ordinance requirement for a screening wall between?
Planning commission removed it.
Technically, because this is 2 industrially zoned properties, it's not required. But I believe we could administratively, it was originally proposed, so I think it was part of the planning commission, as part of their decision-making to remove it. I'm remembering it now.
So,
But we
the
can,
homeowner asked for a higher wall for light issues, right, to block light issues, but if the wall isn't needed because you're going to address light issues, then it's one less sort of this physical barrier between the property of the house and the homeowner, and the actual structure of the storage unit.
so we can, I think we got a couple of options here. We can put the wall up. I don't think the applicant's opposed to that. I think we can absolutely, review the lighting and make sure that's not going to stray onto the property. I think these are all completely acceptable options for us to move forward. Doesn't mind the wall.
All right. Well, it says the wall is removed per the conditions of the planning commission of approval of that. So, what would council like to do with this item? Because we would have to put it in our approval, I believe, as part of the special land use motion.
I guess I have a question for our council, which is if we come to a consensus that the wall is preferred in this situation, because although there are homes that are zoned industrial, they are in fact homes.
Yes.
So if we come to a consensus that the wall should remain in the site plan, which conflicts with what was approved by the planning commission, what is the process for making that alteration? Would it have to go back to the planning commission, or?
Through the chair, it would not. It just have to be spelled out in the motion. And I think for clarity, I just need, Kyle, it's accurate that the planning commission approved it with the masonry wall?
No, it's accurate that they did remove the wall. So that was the discussion at the meeting, and that was one of the conditions of approval at the time. But I've heard from the applicant, they're okay with putting the wall in. They have no issues with that.
Okay.
So is that in the site plan approval rather than the special land use approval?
Yes, it was.
That's actually, it's not part of the special land use. Through the chair, that's a site plan issue. It would be the planning commission. It's not part of the special land use approval. There's a couple different,
So we're discussing two different items.
right. The reason it's the special land use approval, which is for council's deliberation on this evening. The site plan doesn't require council approval. It's the use, the proposed use for a self-storage facility at that location which council is considering. It would really be up to the applicant hearing the position of council on that issue to potentially take that back to the planning commission for further consideration regarding the actual site plan. Council doesn't weigh in on the site plan.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, it can weigh in.
Right, right. All right, well, we do have a motion on the floor to approve the special land use. So we can pass it and then,
You can pass it. Just one other point, going back to the lighting, and I think I heard Kyle indicate that the lighting, you can relook at that, but shielding would certainly be an option there too, rather than removal of one of the lights. Is that where it's shielded downward so that the lumens would not be exceeded at the property line?
Yeah, I'm confident we can work with the photometric plan to make that happen.
okay. If council is good with that direction, then this motion would stand. We wouldn't need to kill it and start over.
Through the chair, I'll give my input on the, sort of that issue among others. In terms of the special land use application, I think this makes a lot of sense. I would urge the applicant to explore re-examining the wall and having a wall to screen between the patio of the building and that west egress from the adjoining residential property. I would also urge the applicant to provide contact information to those residents. We did that on my block when this apartment building was put up, and it was really helpful to be able to reach out to a real person and say, you know, hey, something really obnoxious is happening, would you mind taking care of it? I think it only happened twice, and they dealt with it really quickly, and it was a much easier, less frustrating process than alternatives. So I make that recommendation. I hope that you'll follow up. Otherwise, the substance of the application, I have no issues with.
All right, we have a supported motion on the floor. I believe we're ready to vote, so I'm gonna.
James?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes, but I don't love it. Using your words, Councilwoman James. All right, we're moving on to our next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. I'll read all the items and council can choose what they would like. 7A, approval of the June 12th, 2023 meeting minutes. 7B, approval of the City of Ferndale Dog Park Safety Training Certification Course Civil Agreement with Macro Connect and authorization for the Parks and Recreation Director to execute the agreement. 7C, approval of the indemnification agreement template for fire department training and acquired structures. 7D, approval to enter pre-suite settlement in the amount of $10,000 in the matter of Rambo versus Ferndale. 7E, approval to renew the city's self-insured coverage through the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority at a cost of $819,555,000. 7F, approval of wage increases for non-union administrative employees. 7G, approval of payment for the 2023 fire hose testing at a cost of $6,612. 7H, approval of the Ferndale fiscal 23 final budget amendment. 7I, approval of resolution to recommend qualified licensees for Ferndale Social District. 7J, approval of the amendment to the agreement for local fiscal recovery fund distribution with Oakland County and authorization for the city manager and city clerk to sign the agreement. 7K, approval of the proclamation recognizing July 2023 as Disability Pride Month and recognizing the 33rd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And 7L, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the finance director and subject to review by the council finance committee. What is the pleasure of council?
Mayor, do we need to make a motion before I ask for removal, or?
I think you would like to indicate you would like to remove some
Okay.
7K.
Okay.
She's going to present it again.
I'm sorry, what did you?
You want to move to approve the consent agenda with the removal of 7K?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item 7K for the Ferndale Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Commission to add more language to the proclamation.
Second. Moved by Leaks May and seconded by James.
Leaks May.
Yes.
James.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes. All right, and we're moving on to our regular agenda item, and we now know it's officially summer because we only have one item on our regular agenda, and that is 8A, consideration of public. No, it's been removed. Removed entirely. And
Yes.
removed entirely. Got it. So 8A, consideration of public property mural agreement between the City of Ferndale and the Ferndale Downtown Development Authority for a mural installation at parking lot number 2.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me go ahead and pull up this beautiful little presentation I've pulled up so that we have a better understanding of what exactly it is that we're asking for. And
Summer for being here.
you are very welcome, and it is my pleasure. Just as it states, I'm here this evening to ask for the approval to be able to consider and utilize the wall at parking lot number 2, which is the North Withington parking lot behind Boogie Fever, as part of the downtown mural program. You know, the purpose of this program is to enhance the business district as a destination for all by creating outdoor murals inspired by a yearly theme that will put an enriching visual experience in downtown Ferndale. We do it very well, but downtown Ferndale hasn't really ever taken on the ownership of a submission like we have this past year. And this is our inaugural year. An overview is it's funded by the Downtown Development Authority. This year we did get grant funding from both Main Street Oakland County as well as Michigan Arts and Cultural Council. Out of the 55 submissions, there's been 7 artists selected. Out of the 11 locations submitted, there are 6+ locations where you'll see art sprinkled around town. The DDA board has approved the selections during the meeting that was held on June 8th. You have the full package that the DDA board actually approved in your agenda packet. And the advisory committee, excuse me, consists of one from each of the following: DDA staff, DDA board member, Vision Committee, Ferndale Arts and Cultural Commission, and a City of Ferndale staff member. This year was You Belong Here. We launched it with exactly what it is that's really the pulse of downtown Ferndale, and it has been absolutely inspiring to see how different 55 people take You Belong Here and design concepts associated to it. We have a wonderful collection of 55 submissions, and each one speaks very loudly, which then made the advisory committee's job very difficult to be able to select even the 7 that we have. We really were inspired off of the Declaration of Commitment to Anti-Racism and wanted to be able to really embody what that means of inclusion and equity and diversity within not only the work of art that is being selected, but the individual creating it. And here I just listed out selection criteria for the location and the artist. They were a little bit different. You can see for the location is visibility, and I'm going to speak largely to the fact of why this wall here in the parking lot really stood out to us. It's visible by a lot of individuals who are coming into the district to park, as well as patron, whether it's Treat Dreams or Boogie Fever. That particular alley and area is really underutilized. There isn't any other public art there as of right now, and it has a variety of sites and businesses that are going to be able to benefit from an art being created, a mural being created over a week's time within the summer, this summer specifically. The artist is artistic quality, but not limiting it to those who are extremely experienced. You Belong Here and Downtown Mural Program gives opportunities to those who have not had an opportunity to do murals, maybe because of heights or fear of heights or various other constraints that they have as artists, but always wanted to. The particular artist that we have selected for this location does fall into that, and as well as all the other criteria here, feasibility and diversity. Here's an overview map, and our new guidelines with our presentations couldn't have been more accurate. I pushed the envelope a bit, and you can't actually see all of the names of these locations. But I will go through with House Bayou, the back wall that faces Vester Street, Emory, the back wall that faces East Troy, Natural Patch, also the back wall on West Troy Avenue, perfect view from the new parking garage. The side of Bakehouse 46 along Allen, also an incredible view from inside the parking garage. And right there in the Planavon parking lot, across from where the stars are now, is a property 413 West 9 Mile, and he has constructed a wood slatted area very much specific to an opportunity he knew was going to come in the future once he developed that building. This particular interlocal location is 120 feet by 4 feet. There's parking signs along the top where the bricks are. Those parking signs are in the bricks that are lined vertical. We're not going to touch anything in where the parking signs are. This is all happening in the horizontal brick portion of this wall only. And like I said, it is the first installation of public art in this quadrant. Now that we've identified the actual location, it was really wonderful to go through the advisory committee selection of artists and select which one we felt as though met and could really succeed, bringing a lot of positivity to Ferndale with their artwork. And some of you may be familiar with a local musician, Yusef Latif. She was actually inspired by his song, Destination Paradise, when she created this work of art. You Belong Here, this mural concept embraces each color of the spectral rainbow to create harmonious composition abundant with a variety of marks, patterns, shapes, and forms that all evoke feelings to do with upliftment, energy, and belonging. And in this photo here, you can see that there are little touches of butterflies and various other creations within this that all kind of pull the world together as one. And this is a concept. Once it goes on the actual wall, it will not be done with markers. She does intend to use high-quality outdoor paint and has a team of friends and other artists that will be helping her add these vibrant colors and work of art on the wall. And to end, public art can be a way to add character and personality to an urban environment, making it more interesting and unique. They can celebrate history, express values of a community, and just make spaces more inviting to hang out. Be a part of the legacy that continues to distinguish Ferndale, and I thank you for your consideration. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
I don't have any, I have one question, but it's about the agreement. But I just want to say, I think the selection process was thorough, and I love the artists that were selected. And I look forward to seeing the art in our downtown. I think our Arts and Cultural Commission has been waiting a long time for a project like this, and so I'm glad we're finally at the point of execution.
And to that, I forgot to mention on downtownferndale.com, underneath Visit, you will find a page called Mural Program, that it will live and be updated continuously with all various happenings that are circling around these mural installations taking place downtown this summer.
Okay, my question is that we have two agreements ahead of us. One is between the DDA and the city, right? And the other one is between the DDA and the artist, right?
It is really the interlocal agreement only that the council has to vote on, is how I understand it.
Yes, but is there an agreement between the property owner who's accepting the art?
Yes, there is.
Okay, but that's not listed here today, and we have nothing to do with that, but there is an agreement, right?
Yes.
And that's between the DDA too, or is?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that there was one that
Yes.
covered that aspect.
Location agreement.
A location agreement, okay.
Correct. The interlocal agreement somewhat basically supersedes that. We could go, I should have attached it. Let me just say that.
Okay, I just want to make sure there was coverage there. Are there any other questions from council? Well, this is an obvious, easy vote, but I need a motion. A motion and support.
Mayor, I move that we approve the public property mural agreement between the City of Ferndale and the Ferndale Downtown Development Authority for mural installation at parking lot number 2, as submitted by the acting director.
Second. Moved by Mikulski and supported by James.
Thank
Mikulski?
you.
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes. All right, folks, that is the end of our regular agenda, and we're moving on to the call to council, which we start with department updates. Handing it over to the city manager.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor. A bit rusty. This evening we will begin. Actually, Summer, if you could just keep the mic fresh with an update from the DDA.
It's my pleasure to see you all again, council and mayor. Update from DDA is everything is running as normal. I'm not sure how I've gained extra arms and an extra brain, but somehow I have. We are in the heat of event season, and we just launched our 999 lineup at the concert series at Schiffer Park, which takes place on Sundays, starting June 9th, all the way till September 3rd, from 4 until 5. We also are working with the Ferndale Arts and Cultural Commission to bring these type of music acts to our downtown. And in addition, we've added 2 more events with the Ferndale Concert Band in M1 called Ferndale Street Sounds. So on a Thursday evening from 6 until 10, you will be able to walk around the west side of 9 Mile and pop upon a bunch of music. It was just like last year's busking event that happened at the summer solstice, and we'll be doing it twice this year, July 27th and then again on September 26th. Other than that, Woodward moves and the communication component is continuing on. We've posted information today, and the website is updated as well. I'm wishing everybody a happy 4th of July, and I know a lot of the businesses are looking very forward to having a nice, slow but steady weekend to support them.
Thank you, Summer.
If I may, through the chair, Summer. Did you say that the concert at Schiffer Park start June 9th or July?
July 9th.
Okay, okay.
And I guess on that note, because I did just speak of the mural program, as I'm currently processing all the schedules, you will start to see these locations activated with live art happenings as soon as July 12th.
Thank you. Next, our DPW Director, Dan Antosik.
Good evening, Mayor. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The only thing I have tonight is just a reminder that with the holiday next week, curbside trash collection will be delayed a day for those that have their pickup Tuesday through Friday. Monday's pickup will remain the same. Since the holiday falls on Tuesday, everything will be pushed one day. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Batting third is Emmanuel Johnson out of Parks and Rec.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few updates from the Parks and Recreation Department. Today, we were supposed to have the kickoff for our Yoga in the Park series taking place at Gary Park. That obviously didn't take place with the weather being what it is today, so just want to announce that it's being rescheduled to begin next Monday at 6 o'clock at Gary Park. On June 15th, we held our pajama movie party at Martin Road Park, in which we saw visitors come in for a night of bounce houses and arts and crafts, popcorn and cotton candy that we probably shouldn't have served that late to the kids. And we had a viewing of the latest Puss in Boots movie. It went over very well. I think that's something that we'll probably end up doing again in the near future. And we want to thank everybody that came out and participated in this inaugural version of the event. Our next Movie in the Park series will take place on July 20th at Harding Park at 6:30. That'll be our Park at Night, at which we'll have some games, some activities, some vendors, some food, and we'll be having a viewing of the newest Super Mario Brothers movie. That's July 20th at Harding Park. Summer camp is in full swing right now. It's going great. I don't really have much to report on summer camp besides, it's a wonderful program. It's not like people can register for it right now. So, and I'm not sure how many of you were aware, but our program specialist, Matthew King, who has been handling our sports since he was hired on in December, is actually going to be leaving the department coming up. He's taking a new job in a new state. We're very happy for him. He did a great job for us here, and he got a lot of our programs on track. He actually wrote a beautiful letter that he sent out to the community that I would read, but it's a little bit long. And I wish he was here to read it himself because he's a brilliant orator, too. So with that being said, we want to thank Mac for his contributions, and we also want to let everybody know that there's a new opening for a program specialist, and we need the assistance with the sports end of it. So I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Phil. Nothing complements Parks and Recreation like finance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm real quick, real short. As I mentioned at the previous council meeting, the tax bill with the new colorful inserts will be hitting the mailboxes this weekend. They go out, I believe, Friday. Everything is already at the printer. The proofs has been approved, so just waiting. We can't send it out until the 30th, so that's why it start hitting the mailboxes beginning next week.
Through the chair, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Can you remind me, do the coupons come right away, or is that a second mailing?
No, it's good. It's going to be inserts, so the coupons and everything going to be right.
Awesome,
together.
perfect.
Yep.
Next, we have Chief Emmy.
Evening, Mayor and Council. A couple quick holiday-based messages from the police department. Just a reminder of our vacation list house check service that we offer. If you know a family going out of town or friends going out of town, remind them to call the police department. We'll take down their information and we'll provide extra attention for the residents while they're on vacation. Also, a reminder on the fireworks law and our city ordinance that mirrors the state law. It is acceptable to use fireworks from June 29th through July 4th this year from 11 a.m. to 11:45 p.m. We ask our neighbors to be good neighbors, follow the rules, follow the laws, and think about pets. And I know it tortures a lot of our pets, so let's not use it outside of the parameters of the law. Also, it is a violation of the law and punishable up to $1,000 for each incident. So keep that in mind and be good neighbors and call the police department if you have any issues with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Can our second chief come up and give us a complimentary update?
Team in this tonight. Good evening, everybody. So just fireworks. I mean, fireworks are a lot of fun, but remind people to be safe. A couple reminders. He said, think about pets, but we also want to think about our veterans and the impact shooting out fireworks has for them. So if you have veteran neighbors, be very considerate of them if you're thinking about shooting out fireworks, because that is a real concern for many. Children should not be allowed to light off and shoot off fireworks. It is not very safe, and it is a horrible 4th of July when we are caring for a child with a very traumatic injury. Sparklers are a lot of fun, but remember how hot they get. So be very, very cautious with very young children. You might only use those with children old enough to understand the danger of them. Have a bucket of water out there for them to drop in, just because they do get such extremely high temperatures. Any fireworks that leave the ground, be very cautious with and where they're going. I have seen house fires that start from fireworks landing on people's roofs, so be conscious of where it's going. We have had a lot of rain lately, which is going to help us out. So just be safe, have fun, let's have a great holiday. Also a reminder for people to get their open burn permits. I know I do live in Ferndale. I do walk around the streets. I resist knocking on people's doors, and it's hard sometimes, but backyard campfires are really enjoyable and fun, but remember, there is an annual permit you have to get. It's $25. It's good for the entire calendar year. So do that. If you're found to not be following that, you will receive a letter from us, and then you can't get a violation and a ticket for not being compliant with the ordinance. So just go ahead and go online, do it right online. It's very super easy. You could do it while you're sitting at home. And then the last one, we did have a little bit of a severe weather incident last night. Blew through. The damage is pretty isolated to the southeast corner of the city. We did have one tree come down on a house, another tree came down across a road, some on some power lines. Everybody did all the right things. Call us, stay away from power lines, and that's what we want to remind people. If there are big branches or trees down, remember that there could be power lines and hazards hidden underneath that you can't see, so just stay back, let us come and check it out. Don't feel bad about calling us. We want to keep everybody safe. So everybody have a great 4th of July, and we'll see you at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. And we'll wrap with our communications director, Kara Sokol.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I wanted to tell everybody that I'm very excited to announce that we'll have a new website as of the end of this week. So we are wrapping up a lengthy process here that finally updates city's website. I believe this is the first time in 6.5 years, 7 years, so this is really wonderful. First things first, most important thing is that really the experience of getting to the website shouldn't change. URL is the same. People can get to it the same way. What you'll find when you do get there, though, is that we have a different kind of breakdown than we had in the past. So we really have everything in 4 different buckets. We have residents, visitors, businesses, and government. And moving away from the older style where things were done by category. So if you needed a permit, you went and you had all of the permits. Now we have things grouped so that if you're a resident, we're only going to see residential permits and things like that. I think it should be an easier usability experience for people. We also have an updated calendar and a great updated news site as part of this. Everybody here will be getting tours. Important thing to keep in mind is that we may or may not, have a few things. With a launch of a new site comes some quirkiness. It's planned for this Friday, and so if anybody finds anything that doesn't work or, is buggy or maybe incorrect, the best thing to do is just to let us know. We'll make that nice and easy with an option on the homepage so that we can get feedback in one streamlined way. But I think that generally speaking, people are going to find this a much better experience. There's also an accessibility feature built into this site that allows people to, with a little click up top, change the language, change the size of the font, change the color contrast of the fonts. It has already been designed so that it is dark colors with light font, very light font, and very light colors with very dark font. It's also 4 point sizes larger than all the font was on our last website. So that is already done, but there's even more accessibility features that people can do to tailor the experience to them. So we're really excited and eager to roll it out and hear what people's feedback is.
Excellent. Can't wait to see it. And thank you for all of your hard work, as well as Councilwoman Mikulski, who's been advising on it as well. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just extend that emphasis to everybody. The comm staff is going to be working around the clock, so let's just recognize for anyone who's not launched a website, it's not fun, especially in the final week. And there will be bugs, and there will be new experiences, and there will be new habits you'll all have to build in how you interact with the website. Not that this is the most popular website in town, but it might be. I have just a couple things to close this out. One, just a reminder, July 1 is Happy Fiscal New Year. Woo! So our fiscal new year turns over in July 1. Our ball will drop on June 30th. We will also be closed. City Hall offices will be closed July 4th in observance of the holiday. And I want to just extend gratitude for everybody who made a successful Juneteenth ceremony event in front of City Hall. To staff specifically, shout out to Denise Woods McSwain for leading the initiative. And I appreciate all partners and directors and staff and community members for participating, specifically Hazel Park. So, Mayor, on to you.
Excellent, thank you. I believe we started on the left side last time, so we'll start over with Councilwoman Mikulski on any council updates.
No updates. I just wanted to, again, extend my gratitude to our communications department for the website. I can't tell you how many websites I've launched, and each one has had unique challenges, and I am so looking forward to this. But I'm also going to send you a gift because I know how difficult this has been. And fingers crossed, I think it'll be a nice transition.
Last week, I attended the SEMCOG General Assembly. It happens 4 times a year. As the delegate for the city of Ferndale, I get to go, and if there's something to vote on, I get to vote on it on behalf of the city. And at this general election, we approved the Southeast Michigan Transportation Safety Plan, which I wanted to bring some special attention to because that plan was developed by an absolutely enormous task force. But within that enormous task force, Ferndale was well represented by our mayor, Melanie Piana, our fire chief, Teresa Robinson. And though they weren't there in their capacities as Ferndale residents or officials, Dustin Hagfors was there on behalf of the Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation. He also happens to serve on our Planning Commission. Alan Hale was there on behalf of Detroit Disability Power. He also happens to chair our Accessibility and Inclusion Advisory Commission. And the reason that I'm really calling out this plan is because I really encourage community members to check it out. If you go to semcog.org/safety, you can find the plan and you can find a lot of accompanying resources and materials. And it really provides some additional context for the changes that we're seeing on Woodward. This is part of a much bigger regional goal of reducing traffic fatalities to 0 by 2050. And we are not the only community that is really focusing on making our roads safe for everyone, whether they're in cars, on foot, on bikes, in buses, or crossing to get to buses. So I really encourage folks to check out this transportation safety plan. It has a lot of information. If I forgot to bring my hard copy with me, otherwise I would have read some specific stuff that I thought was interesting. Maybe I'll read it at a future meeting. I also wanted to acknowledge that the SEMCOG Regional Ambassador Award went to the City of Oak Park for their 9-mile redesign and linear park project. If you have not been down to that section of 9 Mile, please go check it out. Again, they have a lot of emphasis on safer pedestrian crossings and bike lanes and streetscape amenities and park amenities for public gatherings and green infrastructure. So congratulations to our neighbors in Oak Park for that completely amazing transformation and for their recognition by SEMCOG.
Thank you for elevating that. Do you know that plan used to be called the Traffic Safety Plan? So it's been aptly renamed, appropriately renamed, so. All right.
That was fun.
Councilwoman Leaks May.
It was great. Congratulations to Oak Park. I just want to, I don't have anything tonight. I just want to say happy 4th of July to all of you. Stay safe, and that's it. I have nothing else.
Thank you. I just wanted to wish everybody a happy 4th of July 4th. Be safe, be cognizant of your neighbors and the fireworks, and nighttime drunk karaoke, if that may impact you or not. I also wanted to say that I'm also starting to roll off some things. I am no longer on the SEMCOG Transportation Coordinating Council. I was for quite a few years. When I started on that council, which helps approve projects that get funded across the region for streetscape improvements, repaving, and what order they go in. I started with a research question: why was it so hard to get Woodward done for older urban communities? And I started going down rabbit holes of how funding happens in our region for streets, and realizing that you really just need to be vocal as a community and really plan ahead, have good plans, have good capital improvement processes, and then get your requests in as soon as possible. And that soon as possible can be 3 to 4 years if you're working with MDOT. That's how long the planning process takes. And so I hope when whoever is on council in January, that, you know, we'll have a SEMCOG appointee. That's rolling off too, and there'll be a new designee, and it's just important to have a voice in SEMCOG, whether it's a task force or sitting on whatever really aligns with your interests, as long as Ferndale is represented is really important. And with that, I am going to call it at 8:29. Happy summer, happy June, happy 4th of July. The Detroit